Among the histories of the first age of the sun, it is recorded that a text of great solemnity has been preserved. Now this is no tale of battle, nor of the forging of great rings, but instead a profound meditation on the very nature of mortality, held in the twilight of a long and desperate war. This is the accounting of the Athribith Finrod Andreth, the debate of Finrod and Andreth.
Their discourse, we are told, took place within Nargothrond, the great hidden fortress upon the river Narog. The time was that of the siege of Angband, a watchful, fragile peace just before the coming of the great ruin. A kind of stillness lay upon the land, but beneath it, the wise knew that the long defeat was far from over.
Ancient scrolls speak of the two souls who are central to this debate, a high king of the Noldor and a wise woman of the Aedan. They also tell of the deep history and the shared sorrow that bound them, one to the other.
He was Finrod, son of Finarfin, king of Nargothrond. Men called him Felagund, the hewer of caves. You see, as one of the high Noldor, he had looked upon the light of the two trees before the world was marred. The Aedain named him Nom, which is wisdom, for he was their first and their greatest friend among the Eldar.
And to him came Andreth, a lore mistress from the house of Beor, now grown old and drawing near the end of her days. Her wisdom was profound, but it was always tinged with the great sorrow of her life. Because in her youth she had given her heart to Aegnor, Finrod's own brother, and that love had found no fruit but grief.
And so began the heart of their debate. It turned upon the fundamental mystery of the fate of men, the very nature of their death, and whether it could rightly be called a gift, as the elves believed, or a doom, as men felt it in their hearts.
You see, the Eldar, who are bound to the circles of the world until its very end, perceived the mortality of men as the gift of Iluvatar, a freedom to depart Arda and journey to a fate beyond what even the elves could know. But Andreth, she spoke for her people, and she named it the doom of men, an unwilling flight into a darkness steeped in fear and sorrow.
And she put forth this powerful question: if death were truly a gift, why would men shrink from it in terror? This fear, she argued, this was proof that something was deeply wrong in the very nature of their being, that their departure was no willing release, but a violent tearing apart.
And it was here, in the twilight of Nargothrond, that Andreth unveiled a terrible secret. A secret kept since the dawn of her race. A truth of which even the wisest of the Eldar had no idea. She first spoke this fragment of an ancient, broken memory, the very core of a lore held only by the wise among men, that their state, their condition, was not as it was first designed.
And then she laid bare the heart of the matter. The death that men now suffer is no gift, she said, but a violence done to their nature. For they were marred in their very beginning by the great enemy.
Andreth recounted the dim lore of the fall of men. For when the first of her kind awoke in Hildorian, it is said that Morgoth came among them, and in their weakness they listened to his lies. Many turned from the one, Iluvatar, and gave their worship to the shadow instead. This choice, their lore holds, sundered the harmony of their very being, twisting their departure from Arda into a thing of terror.
From this revelation of deepest despair, Finrod then asked if any hope could possibly remain. And that's when Andreth spoke of a different tradition, one held not as knowledge, but as a trust held against all that seemed to be true.
She named this hope Estel. Now this word, it doesn't just mean hope for a good outcome. It means a profound trust in the ultimate goodness of the One, Eru Iluvatar. It's a trust that endures even when all signs point to utter ruin.
You see, the Eldar make a clear distinction between two kinds of hope. There's Amdir, which is hope based on evidence and reason, things you can find within the world. And then there's Estel, which is trust in what is unseen. Amdir can fail, just as all things in Arda can fail. But Estel cannot, because its foundation isn't in Arda, but in the author of Arda himself. And this was the heart of that hope, what Andreth called the Old Hope. It was a whispered belief, passed down in secret, that Iluvatar himself would one day enter into his own creation, to heal it of all its wounds, and in doing so undo the very work of the enemy.
The scrolls tell of Finrod's absolute astonishment. He reasoned that such a healing must indeed come from beyond the confines of the world, from the author himself. And to enter his own story, he would have to become a part of it. He would have to become incarnate. And since men alone possess the gift of leaving Arda, only by becoming a man
Could the one enter, heal, and then depart again?
As their long conversation drew to a close, in the failing light of Nargothrond, it is told that no final answers were found, only a deeper, more sorrowful understanding of the great questions that lie on the hearts of both elves and men.
And their fates from then on were woven with sorrow. Andreth died of old age, her question unanswered in this life. Egnor, the one she had loved, fell in the battle of sudden flame, the Dagor Bragaloch. And Finrod himself perished in the dark pits of Tolen Garhoth, the Isle of Werewolves, all to keep his oath to Beren, a mortal man. Yet, it is also recorded that Finrod, alone of the exiled Noldor, was granted rebirth in Valinor, and he walks there now with his father on the shores of Eldamar. And so, the central, lingering question of their entire dialogue remains. If this old hope is true, might Andreth and Egnor and all others parted by the sundered fates of elves and men find one another at last beyond the circles of the world?
In the end, it seems Finrod found his answer not in knowledge, but in faith. Because true hope, the kind of hope that endures, doesn't lie in the fleeting fates of this world or even in the deep wisdom of the Eldar. It lies in Estel, an unwavering trust in the One beyond all darkness and all despair.